Welcome to the 100 Club. My name's Tom, and I'm joined again by Rich, and we're here to discuss the overseas wildcard picks that have been announced in the last 7 days or so. Rich, how's it going?
Very well, Tom. I've had a fantastic day at Lord's watching cricket, both with my father and my daughter. A perfect way to spend Father's Day, watching a bit of blast cricket.
Well, you might have been if you weren't a Kent fan, given the result from Middlesex today. But it's been a little while since we've been on a video. Taking a little time to watch the IPL, bit of blast, bit of Charlotte Edwards. But you've been keeping in touch, right?
Oh, indeed. Plenty of cricket been going on. And looking forward to the return of the 100, a little over sort of 6 weeks from now.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we have been a bit quiet. There's not been a huge amount going on with the 100, but in the last 7 days or so, the announcement has been of the overseas wildcard picks. So if you remember the system this year, a fourth overseas player has been allowed to be selected for each team, men and women. Whilst only 3 can be in the matchday squad, that's going to provide some contingency, right, for overseas internationals, commitments, and people pulling out and the like, yeah?
Yeah, and that was partly a mitigation for what happened last year, where we had so much churn in the squads because there was an uncertainty about who would be available. Obviously, there were COVID windows as well that were playing into it. But they took the sensible decision, let's expand it. Let's have 4 overseas players. I mean, the IPL, it's up to, 8 overseas, right? But
Yeah.
4 can play at one in time. So the 100's going for 3 overseas players can play, but we're going to have 4 in the squad.
Yeah, and I mean, these aren't the top tier players. I think there's £60,000 bracket for the men and about an equivalent tier for the women's players as well. But there's some interesting picks. Some of the teams going for maybe a longer term outlook. Some of the teams going for like direct slot in kind of cover contingency. So without further ado, let's start. And I'm going to show off my new graphics as well, Rich, if you don't mind, with a returning favourite for the Birmingham Phoenix, who is Deepti Sharma. What did you make of her last year when she was playing for the London Spirit, of course?
Well, she was one of the better players for the London Spirit last year. I think she offers more with the ball than the bat in the 100 format. I don't think she's necessarily... She is a good batter, but she's not a power hitter. But very, very difficult to get away. The way she sort of she bowls quite flat off spin, which is a bit unusual in the women's game. Where spinners tend to bowl a little bit slower. So I think she's a very effective operator in short format, and I think she'll do a good job for the Birmingham Phoenix, replacing Barley Verma, who of course played as the overseas player in last year.
Yeah, and I think she'll get plenty of game time as well, given we know the quality. And I think she's coming along a lot over the past year as well. Still only 24, done some leadership roles as well. So I'm excited to see it back. And another firm favourite returning on the other side of the Birmingham Phoenix this year will be Imran Tahir, rolled out again at the firm age of 43. Are you looking forward to seeing Imran back?
Absolutely. Hope for us all in terms of our cricketing careers. But no, Imran Tahir, who could not like Imran Tahir? The way he plays the game, he wears his heart on his sleeve. Absolutely loves taking wickets, charges around the field when he does so. And looking forward to seeing him back at Edgbaston, where he was very much taken in by the Hollies last year.
Yeah, I mean, the cynic in me might say this is a ploy to get, more tickets sold, and the tickets are on sale right now, of course. But actually, he's still a fabulous bowler, over 500 T20 wickets, and both internationals and in franchise. And an economy rate under 7 really can't be sniffed at. With those middle overs, he really comes into his own, I think. Okay, other end of the age scale, but equally exciting for me. What about Noor Ahmed? Have you been following the rise of this young superstar, Rich?
They just seem to produce them, don't they? The Afghans in it. And I was watching, Case Ahmed today. A player I love watching, but can't seem to get close to that team at the minute. Obviously, Rashid Khan is the best spinner in the world, but this chap Noor Ahmed might replace him in the next few years, and it's going to be very exciting to see him in the 100 ladies.
Yeah, I mean, this might be my favourite overseas wildcard pick, and that's not because, the Welsh foreign, a bit biased there. Just fascinating, though. I love his action, left arm wrist spin, which lots of shoulder in it, lots of arm in it. Gets a lot of movement in the flight, as well as then quick bounce both ways off the pitch. And there's clearly something about the kid. If Gujarat Titans, the IPL champions, are picking him up, Melbourne clearly taking him on. And then, he's just played his first international against Zimbabwe, picked up 4 for looking great. So, yeah, really hoping he's going to get some game time this year at Sophia Gardens. Okay. On the other side, then, for them, they've got Nicola Carey, the Australian right arm medium. A face that we were expecting maybe last year, but again fell out with the COVID withdrawals from the Australian side. I mean, Australian short format women's cricketer, can't go wrong, right, Mitch?
It's one of the fascinating things about the Women's 100 this year, in that the opening tournament was so good, yet a lot of the top class overseas players were missing, in terms of, particularly none of the Australians really came, the international side, but they will be here this year. So the quality of the Women's 100 is going to be absolutely top class this year.
And
Kerry are going to contribute to that.
Yeah, and no mug with the bat either. I mean, we had the Fair Break tournament, which was the ICC sanctioned, privately funded tournament over in the Middle East quite recently, and hit a couple of 50s in there. Someone with a little less consistency, to my mind, is Elise Villani. Again, another individual who was going to be in the tournament last year, pulled out. Scored over 1,000 T20 internationals, but just I don't necessarily think that's a great pick from the Trent Rockets. Anything to add on that one?
I'm just looking at your point 3 there, inconsistent talent.
I'm harsh.
Yeah, point to prove. Yeah, prove Tom wrong, Elise.
Okay. Yeah, well, there you go. That's my harsh judgment. But it seems to be very up and down. But plenty of experience. I think 32 now. Another Australian joining the London Spirit this time is Ben Mcdermott, who has bags of talent as well. Gunning for Wade is my top point there, because it just seems to me that the Australians, again, can't stop producing top-order, hard-hitting, batting wicket-keepers. So with Wade, Inglis, Mcdermott, and Alex Carey out there, who's your pick of that lot, Mitch?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think this is where the 100 runs into potentially an issue, because we are trying to create a tournament that reflects not only the best in one-day cricket, but also reflects the country as it is at the minute. And I think one issue is that franchise cricket was supposed to go above and beyond what the county structure provided. And it meant that there was a lot of cricket fans in the country who didn't really feel any kinship with counties. And that was particularly amongst fans from the Asian subcontinent, not only in India, but also Bangladesh and Pakistan. Yeah. And one thing I've really noticed with the round of picks is that it has gone quite sort of Australasian heavy. It is sort of kind of Aussie youngsters or players on the circuit coming over. And we haven't seen many players from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Sri Lanka coming into the 100 at this point. And I think the ECB has missed a bit of a trick in that respect. So Ben Mcdermott, as a professional player, all best to him. Obviously, he's trying to do his best. He's going to come over here. He's going to play in the 100, and that's going to raise his profile. But I just wonder whether the likes of the fact that we haven't seen Babar Azam coming into the 100, we haven't seen others, Mohammed Rizwan, etc. Not obviously there are some Pakistan players. We're going to get to them in a minute, but I just wonder whether the tournament's missed a little bit of a trick in not bringing those groups into it this time around.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Only one associate player within the wildcard picks, again, perhaps also indicates that. I have actually missed one individual who probably is going to reinforce that argument there from you, which is Dan Sams, of course, coming in for the Trent Rockets on the men's side. But again, another similar case, right on the cusp of the T20 Internationals outfit for Australia, doing plenty, had 3, I think, outfits in IPL. But is he necessarily doing what you said there about talent?
And I guess it's sort of a reciprocal thing with the Big Bash, isn't it? You look at the kind of players who are going to the Big Bash last summer. It's the like of Sam Billings, it's Ben Duckett, it's James Vince. Guys who are fantastic cricketers, and let's not beat about the bush, they are fantastic cricketers, but they're not quite at that absolute pinnacle level. If the 100 wants to compete, or not necessarily compete with the IPL, but wants to sort of put itself as the kind of the landmark franchise tournament that takes place in the latter half of the year, it maybe needs to go a step above.
Yeah, well, I'm going to continue the theme, if you'll excuse me, Rich, here with more Antipodeans. So we've got Jess Kerr coming to London Spirit. That's the sister of Amelia, who's already in the squad there. So maybe you can understand that one on a familial link, and helping with embedding into the squad. But again, not sure that's quite the top end talent. Emerging maybe with 14 internationals, and then over at the Manchester Originals, again another link there in that Leah Tahu, who I think is a much more established talent coming in, is the wife of Amy Satterthwaite, who will be again a fixture in that squad as well. Anything to add on Leah? I mean, do you see a lot of in the World Cup?
On both of them, really, both impressed in the Women's World Cup for me.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew about Jess Kerr, as obviously she's the sister of Amelia, but very different cricketer. And I think her medium pace, and I think that's a bit unfair. I think she's a bit quicker than medium pace. Will be useful in that game. But Leah Tahu is genuinely quick for the women's. One of the quickest women's bowlers in the game. She's
aggressive. I prefer aggressive. I'd call it.
Yeah, but she's up there with Taylor Vlaminich and Izzy Wong for the fastest in women's cricket at the minute. Pushing that, who's going to be the first to get above 80 miles an hour recorded. And I think she'll excite people actually when she comes over, especially in the shorter format. When you've only got 20 balls to bowl, you can really go for it.
Yeah. And another Antipodean, but again, one I am actually really interested in seeing is Ashton Turner on the other side of on the Manchester Originals. Not least because I don't think he's done really very much in the Blast. He's over here with Durham, and a few of these players clearly are over here with the Blast. But I think he's a really fierce competitor, and he used to bowl a bit of off breaks. I mean, he's lost his shoulder, I think, and he really can't even field in the outfield now. But he still has brilliant power, lots to offer in the middle order, I think. And if he gets going, I think he was a match winner on his day.
Yeah, I mean, a fine cricketer again, but it's one of those issues, isn't it? When people say, what does the 100 offer that the Blast doesn't?
Yeah.
And you think, well, the 100 is a distillation. It's only 8 teams rather than 18. You're really going to condense talent. Is he really in sort of the top 24 overseas players in the world? Perhaps not, but a very useful cricketer nonetheless. So let's see how he gets on.
Yeah, and another one in the Blast at the moment is Finn Allen over with Yorkshire, going to the Southern Braves as the overseas wild card. I mean, he scored 165 runs for the Phoenix here, that very successful outfit. The thing that stands out for me on him, this Kiwi, is the strike rate. Consistently, up there, 170 plus, 177, I think, is the strike rate in T20 franchise tournaments, over 190 in internationals. A fantastically interesting and entertaining player.
Yeah, we were very excited last year when he was drafted into the Phoenix because he's incredible talent, especially when he first came into international cricket, playing for New Zealand off the back of a fantastic tournament domestically. Didn't quite work out for him at the Phoenix last year, but supremely talented, and I think let's see how he gets on at Southern Brave, because I think that this young man will be around for at least a decade at least in international cricket.
Yeah, and I mean, we can look at the squads as we get a bit closer as they completely firm up. But he's got Quinton de Kock alongside. He's got Marcus Stoinis, and you wonder who he's going to be pushing there for the batting overseas position there. So interesting one to watch. And on the women's side, they put in another Aussie, keep the theme going. Molly Strano. It's got the first woman to get over 100 WBBL wickets. This is no mug with the ball. Right arm off breaks. Particularly useful and often used in the power play. But interestingly, it has very, very little impact in the international scene. I think only one cap so far on the women's T20s. So maybe not seen as much of her.
Indeed, but remember last year, because of the difficulties in getting players over, we saw some of the Aussie players who didn't get international time, the likes of Katie Mack, who came and played in the last tournament and absolutely held their own. In fact, were huge additions to their side. So I think Australian women's cricket is so strong. Just because somebody's not getting to the international side doesn't mean that they're not going to be a hugely positive effect on their team in 100. So very interested to see how Molly Strano goes when she joins up with the Brave.
Yeah, and
who are already looking like we already saw the Southern Vipers absolutely dominate women's cricket again, and I would expect to see the Southern Brave, be favourites the day that the 100 tournament starts.
I think that is probably what the bookies are saying. Last one, I promise, in this run of Australians, Heather Graham, who again we saw last year. Sorry, this was the in case of only one T20 international. But again, reinforcing your point about the amount of time you can get at the international level in Australia. But to put it in perspective, Trent Rockets last year picked up Heather Graham in that scenario of a late, overseas pick in a case of need. Comes in number 3 run scorer for the team and the number 2 wicket taker for them. So they'll be hopeful that she can do something pretty good for the Superchargers this year.
Yeah, just another 100 miles up the road, and she'll base herself in Leeds for August.
I think they would also be pretty glad to welcome David Visa up there in Yorkshire, following a pretty spectacular year for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an Indian summer, hasn't it, for David Visa in terms of his career? Both in his franchise form around the world, playing in the T20 World Cup last year. Fantastic story with the Namibian team there. But absolutely can do a job. And I think he's a very shrewd pickup by the Superchargers because he can slot into almost any short format team in the world, I would say. Yeah,
I mean, he's 37 now. I've put batting all-rounder there, but I'm not so sure myself, actually, in reconsidering that. Because 260 T20 wickets, a very useful, slow, sort of off-pace bowler who's pretty canny and can certainly do a great job for them up there. Okay, finally, of course, the defending women's team champions, the Oval Invincibles, pick up perhaps one of the stars of the women's game in Susie Bates.
Yeah. I'm assuming she spent some time in South Africa. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for the Oval Invincibles to have picked her up.
Yeah.
But all joking aside, it fits in with their philosophy. I mean, fantastic experienced cricketer. I think she will fit in with the group there. They're defending champions, obviously. They know what it takes to win in this tournament. They have a style. It's mostly about constricting with the ball and not making mistakes with the bat. And I think that she'll fit in with that perfectly.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited to see her working with the bat. But I was interested also, reading up. I hadn't clocked previously an Olympic basketball player as well. What a talent! And finally, perhaps the most intriguing pick of them all, Mohammad Hosnain. What do we think we're going to see from Mohammad Hosnain when he arrives at the Oval?
Well, hopefully we'll see him play as a starting point. But we will just see express pace.
Yeah.
And I was watching the other day, it was the 20-year anniversary of the 1999, not the 20-year anniversary of, but it's been 23 years since the 1999 World Cup semi-final when Shoaib Akhtar shredded New Zealand with 90+ mile an hour Yorkers. The one to get Stephen Fleming in particular, if anyone looks it up on YouTube, is one of my favourite deliveries of all time.
Yeah.
There's something fantastic about express pace, and I think this guy has it in abundance, and it's just going to be exciting to watch him this summer.
Yeah, and what we need to know is whether he's still going to have that express pace, because clearly he was playing in the BBL over the winter. He got reported for suspect action and has been working on that with the ICC, with the Pakistani authorities, and has had that action re-examined, altered ultimately, and it's believed that he's taken the flex in the elbow down from about 27 degrees down to about 13 degrees. So what has that done for his action? We haven't seen him play since. What has it done for his pace? Previous is still, I think, the record holder for the fastest ever ball in the CPL, which is 96.37 miles an hour. If he sends that down with a 13-degree bend, then there's going to be some pretty terrified batters across the nation come August.
Yeah.
So a decent set. Go on, Rich.
Fingers crossed he can sort it out, yes, in terms of his action and retain that express pace that we saw in the Big Bash last year.
He'll take wickets if he can. I think it'll take wickets anyway. So looking forward to seeing him. A bit of a counter through, but so 16 players added to the squads there. And I think what we'll do from here now, we'll examine how they're going to fit into the squads themselves, get into some deep dives, suggest some orders and like as we build up now towards the tournament itself. That clearly starts in early August. Next main point for your diary, though, is on the 7th of July when they'll be announcing, I believe, the men's wildcard domestic players. Each team will take a domestic player off the the Blast in all likelihood, based on form, and we'll certainly be checking out who those are. Rich, any early indications for you who they should be looking at?
I'm not sure, Tom. I think it's a case of who complements the squads the best at this point.
Fair enough.
I'll
throw the same name I think I said last year, which is Steve Eskenazi. You've seen him today. He's in good form.
It didn't go particularly well today.
He still did all right. He's in pretty good form. He's still out there for me as a good option. Stick with the 100 Club here on YouTube, and we will continue to keep you updated with the tournament and the white ball game in general as we progress through to the summer. We are all over social media. Some details down there. But if you haven't seen us before, please hit subscribe down below and hit a like on the video and give us some chat down below. See what you think. Think of these picks in the wildcards and where you think the tournament should go this summer. It's been a pleasure chatting to you again, Rich, and we won't be so long until I talk to you again.
Cheers.